kind of want to review again. What are the types of areas you are looking for? Are you looking for a new job? You're just trying to start a new position? Are you trying to expand your career, looking for a different type of a career? What are some of the areas you're looking for? Anybody?
Retirement.
Retirement.
What door is that gonna open?
I
I
like
realize
that.
I'm not gonna be like retired sitting, I'm gonna be retired working.
Sure. I have a feeling that my last moment will
Yeah.
have a job. And I'll come right over to you after. Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking for full-time work, but at the same time, I'm also starting to try and build my own like freelance company.
Sure, yeah, and that's something we
Both.
can talk about a little bit, because I have experience in that area, so and that is actually part of that conversation of opening doors.
I am retired, but trying to promote the new book I wrote, and I'm in the process of writing another book, and perhaps even trying to pull together a team, a publishing team, of editor and printer and
Sure.
graphic arts person and
Right.
that kind of thing.
Very good.
I would say new job, new career, and retirement.
Retirement's a big one. We all want to get there. Anything
I'm
else?
saying retirement also.
Oh, yeah?
Working
Right.
retirement.
Excellent, excellent. Well, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of colleagues who are in their late career stage, you know,
Mhm.
55 plus, that for whatever reason are getting removed from the workforce,
Mhm.
and it's a little too early for them. So
Yeah.
they're giving me the resumes, they're asking me to network, so I figured I'd just show up here and see what kind of information I can
Sure.
pass along in their stead, if
Yeah.
they're not available.
Absolutely. You know, here's the thing, and there is a trend. There is a trend that more and more people will need to create their own job. Bottom line, I mean, you know, with all the automation, the talk of artificial intelligence, which is something, believe it or not, you engage with every single day, whether you realize it or not. The labor force itself doesn't necessarily have to grow because of the efficiency, especially things that deal with repetitive tasks. I mean, right now, the one area I would not want to be in is accounting. That scares me to death, you know, in terms of my accounting friends. Because a lot of that stuff, you know, I can go to Google right now with their analytics, and I have all this information about websites, and I can just ask it a question like a regular person now. There's a new little box in my analytics that tells me who's come to the website and say, which is my most, you know, viewed page, or what kind of calculation. It'll come right on through and just pull out that data so I don't have to find it. Just like talking to a person. And that's going to continue to grow. And that's going to affect a lot of jobs, which is going to close doors, right? But with technology often comes new doors that open. So being on top of what is happening is really important. But let me ask you this question. How do you open a door? What's the first thing you do? If it's not your door and you want to go through, what do you have to do?
Take the hinges off.
At least knock.
I would say knock first. Then maybe go for the hinges. But sometimes that needs to be the attitude. You have to knock. You have to knock. And so when a door closes and you just sit there and wait for it to open, it doesn't. And if you're just sitting on the couch waiting for something to happen or the phone call, the phone to ring, it's not going to happen. You have to do something. And there are two very important things that I have discovered, and I am not the first person to figure it out by far. Boy, over time, and I'll share that with you, but over time I've seen more and more how these two things are really so true in terms of success in life and opening new doors. And I'll share that with you in a few moments. But let me talk about my doors closing for a few moments and share what I did to open mine. So my degree is in photography. And I've been in the media business, newspapers, worked for newspapers and magazines for years. And then, of course, all that's been shrinking, and I was one of those people that was laid off from the newspapers. I had other opportunities, and then of course, the big downturn. And during that downturn, I was convinced, that was the closed door for photography. I mean, that was it. Advertising, of course, we all probably felt that way around, 2008, 9, 10, just everything. You're not gonna make cars anymore. I mean, everything that could be, and certainly being someone in the advertising and media business certainly felt that too. So, one of my clients was a digital marketing firm. And I had been getting more involved as a photographer in the social media area, in the digital marketing. I had a kind of a side marketing portion to my career. Even coming out of high school, I had awards in both photography and marketing. And so I thought, I've been using it to grow my photography business, but now is time to just put it in place and take the kind of the side part of the parallel career and just put it into play to make some money. And so I went to one of my clients, again, independent, single, small business person, and said, hey, I think you need a social media consultant. He looked at me and said, I think you're right. And so from there, I decided that, you know what, taking a step back here, early in 2009, I had done something else. I took some of the information that I had and I started a podcast for photographers. And when I first turned on that microphone, how many people were listening?
Your mother?
Yes, absolutely. She was there. And that was about it. But I did make a goal for myself. And I made 3 goals for myself. And they were all impossible. The first one was to get that job. Now, when I asked for that position, it was not available. And I'll get into that in a moment. The second was to be a published author. Why not? The third was to speak around the country, specifically the world, namely, for some strange reason, Australia. I wanted to go to Australia. See, I'd heard a lot of people were speaking in Australia, and I thought, why not me too? So, in 2009, as I was just mentioning, I asked my friend, hey, I think you need a social media consultant. And like I mentioned, he said, yes, but you know what, that first year, I didn't make much money. Because he was an independent shop. So what did I have to do to open that door? I had to make my own job. I put it up there, I said, basically, I want to partner with you. It took a year before I actually made a salary, before the company actually gave me a weekly paycheck. From there, is project to project, here to here, with the goal, with knowing where that vision is, that was going to be the case, but that took an entire year for that to become a reality. And we ended up building that firm to about a 15-person firm before I spun off 3 years ago. During that time, I started getting noticed by other people, and I was asked to speak in New York and on social media for photographers, a big photography conference. And there's a young lady there who met with me, and she was 25, 26, and she had big ambitions, big goals. And she had a lot of energy, and I actually interviewed her on my podcast. And a few months later, she asked me, hey, would you like to be in my book? I said, sure, you can interview me for your book. She's 26. Where's that going? It turned out she had a publisher, and she was writing the same book I was writing, except she was writing the parts that she wanted to write, but not the parts I wanted to write, and vice versa.
All right.
It turns out that the person she partnered with had no idea about social media, and the publisher fired him. And so on December 31st, 2009, she asked me via Twitter, "So, what are you doing?" Would you help me write a book in 8 weeks? It's due now. It has to be out in May. And of course I said, absolutely, let me check that list. Yep, that's on the list, something I want to do. And so in 8 weeks, we wrote a book, Link Photographer's Guide to Online Marketing and Social Media, and that's 2010. 2011, Twitter shows up again. Somebody in Australia started following me. And this person only had about like 6 followers. It was just a new account. But there's a new feature on Twitter that I was looking around, and I saw this person and caught my attention, and I tweeted them back and I said, "Hey, if there's anything I can do for the people of Australia, please let me know." One thing I noticed in his profile is that he booked speakers related to a photography event. He responded within 5 minutes. He said, "Would you actually come to Australia?" He had read the book. And I said, "Absolutely." And in the fall of 2011, when was I here in 2011, Luther?
It was, the first day we met was September 7th.
Oh yeah, so it was a month later after that, I landed in Adelaide, Australia to speak at a big photography conference. By taking what? Action. By knocking on doors. By continuously asking and not waiting. By setting those goals and taking the action. Were all those impossible doors to open?
Apparently not.
Apparently not, but it sure seemed like it did. So, I've since obviously created other goals, and I'm building those and knocking on more doors. And as I said, eventually I spun off on my own company, and now I have my own company, and I feel very, very secure. And as we talked about early on, about the whole idea where the job is going to be, or who's, how many of us are going to have our own job anyway, whether we want to be hired by a company or not. There may not be those kinds of positions. In some cases they will. Actually, there is an app out there right now that says, "Will robots take my job?" And you can just look it up online, and it'll give you a percentage chance if robots will take your job. It's kind of fun. And that it's for photographers is only 2.7%, so I'm pretty good there. A lot of the creative positions are all right. Like I said, it's more the repetitive positions that are at most risk.
I hope they do.
Pardon?
I said, I hope they do.
Hope you do what?
Take your job.
Take my job, robots?
I work for a company that makes robots.
All right.
I'm just kidding.
So, my ask to you is to think about what are other things that you are good at. One of the things we have to think about is separating ourselves from the competition. And that's when I was here the other time for Luther was talking about the combination code. And that is something I've kind of developed over time. It's a very simple concept of understanding who you are. What is your core? What are you the best at? Now, in 2008, for me, when I was starting that podcast, I was a photographer, right? But there's something else I could add to that photography, and that was that social media element. A lot of people were doing that at the time in different industries, in different areas. And for me, I added the social media element and understanding that to my photography, and I was able to take that nationally. It separated me from the competition. So the combination code, the idea behind that is to combine something with your core to separate yourself from the competition. Now that could be a style. It could be technology. It could be a process, a philosophy. one of the things that happens, and this is something that's very effective when it comes to finding employment, is not just being what everybody else is, but having that core talent, but also having something else connected to you that separates you from the other candidates. And it's true in the marketplace. It's true if you're a freelancer. One of the biggest problems when you're out there on your own, as a freelancer especially, is that you get into this idea that you have to be the lowest bid to win. And especially as a photographer, many of the arts, writing, design, quite often you feel that way. And the fact is, if you're able to separate yourself from the competition in that way, people are willing to pay you more because there's only one of you. When you're just like everyone else, you're competing with everyone else, and you're what is called a commodity. You're basing off price. But if you add that other element that separates you from the competition, you can, if you can design and write, or maybe photograph and write, or me adding photography and video, or maybe there's a certain style of Photoshop that is really difficult that I could apply to my photography, whatever it may be. Adding another element to what you do, you can command a higher price because there's much less competition for that exact request or need. Now, 20 years ago, it's actually harder to do that because, well, one, you had Metro Detroit as your area to work from. If you wanted to live here, then you had to find employers here. The nice thing today is we're interconnected with the world. And so your employer or your client doesn't necessarily, and a lot of people have more than one employer, doesn't have to be just here in Detroit. You can have a client in Detroit, but you can also have one in New York and LA and a little town in Kansas. And then you can make a career out of multiple clients or multiple employers. And so you have that kind of access. And that is the power of the idea of separating yourself from the competition and using the combination code. After you write one book, you say you're never going to do it again, and then what do?
Do it again.
You do it again. And so I wrote another book called The 1 Hour Photographer, which I self-published. But I had an idea that I wanted to get published by another publisher. The first one was Cengage. This time I wanted Wiley. For some reason, Wiley was the one I wanted to go after. And so I wrote this book, and I wanted to find out who it was that I needed to know to send it to Wiley. So where did I go? Where do you think I might have gone to look for the information?
Wiley?
No, but although that would probably have been a good option.
Other authors?
But I was hoping a little
Other
more.
authors who've used.
That's another good way. There's a lot of avenues. I use LinkedIn. I used LinkedIn and typed in LinkedIn acquisition editor Wiley photography. And up popped the person I wanted. Couldn't get through by LinkedIn, so I went to Facebook and looked her up and sent her a message and said, hey, are you the person I need to know? Fortunately, she wrote the book that competed with my other book. And so she knew who I was. So that was helpful. I have to concede that point. And she said, yeah, if you have some ideas, send them on over. And so, well, I do. And so I sent it on over. And they politely said no. And so, but said, don't worry, we're still your new publisher. And if you have another idea. I said, well, I have another concept in there called the combination code. I would like to pull that into a full new book. They contemplated that for a couple months while I was waiting. Eventually they came back to me and said, hey, would you mind just writing these other books over here? Totally different books on cameras and how to take good photographs and so forth. And so I ended up writing 2 different books. In other words, I didn't get exactly what I want, but I got other opportunities. The door's closed, but I knocked on a door. I said, here it is, my pride and joy, please publish it. No, thank you. But here's some other opportunities. So when you knock on a door, you don't always know what's behind that door. But you have to be open to the fact that there's some opportunities there that you weren't even thinking about. Right? So definitely consider that as you know, you have your goals, but be flexible with them. Take your knowledge, be flexible. Eventually the Synaptics Media door closed. It wasn't working with the partner, and I had to spin off. And I did. And so here I am back home on my own, 0 clients. I have my photography stuff on the side still, so I still kept that going. And I ended up getting, luckily, a very large client for my photography that kind of kept things going. A lot of things happened during that time. I taught at 2 universities. I've been given opportunities. I taught at Wayne State for 15 years and U of D for 8 years. And during that time, I lost this position. This is 2013. I lost the position at Synaptics Media. I retired from Wayne State. I was adjunct, you don't really retire, but I said, this is a happy release. I've been here 15 years, thank you so much, shake hands, and you know, that was it. And then they didn't renew for U of D, they just stopped doing the photography program. And then also divorce, all within the same. Lot going on.
Right.
Lot of doors closing. After a lot of doors have been opened up and a lot of things, good things have happened, but you have to be prepared to know everything can go again. And so what do you do when those doors close? You start over again. And how many of you have started over again and again and again? And guess what? Once again, it'll happen. It's normal. It's okay. Just be prepared to know. Don't beat yourself up for it. I gave myself a week. Oh, darn it. and started knocking on doors again, right? And bringing in and networking with people. It takes people to grow your business. It takes people to find a new job. It takes people to get through life. So what are those 2 things that I have discovered through the years? The 2 things that have worked every time have been activity, being active and being out there, sitting on the couch, as I mentioned. I see Luther everywhere. My goodness, that man. Networking events, online. If he is not in my social media, I gotta call him because I think something's wrong. He's active. And you have to be active and out there. Let me tell you something, and this is the right place to kind of have this conversation. If you are, I gotta tell you, it is strange. It doesn't have to come from the same place. I may just say, I gotta get out there, and I do something over here, and something opens up over there. But that over there would not have opened up if I hadn't been active over here. It just is a weird universe we have. You just have to be active and out there. And you don't have to have the right activity, you just have to be active. It's just kind of this vibration of things, this getting in circulation thing that kind of, you know, accidents just kind of happen when you are out and about finding. And let me tell you, I've had a lot of great accidents happen over these last few years, just by being out there and knocking on those doors. The other thing that I have noticed that is mandatory for the people that are doing it is persistence, not stopping. Being active and being persistent. those two things, and I know you've probably heard those words before. I'm certainly by far not the first person to say that, but I'm just another person who's offering a little testimony to that basic fact. That those two things I have found to be the common thread through all of the things that have worked for me, as well as the things that have worked for people, that I admire and have seen do great, wonderful things. And you just have to keep it going. It's amazing how many times that next thing, it doesn't wear you out a little bit, but man, you're just at that last moment, like, it took 2 years to get that second company really going where I wanted it to go. There are a lot of times where I had people staring at me like, you're doing okay, but, it took that third year to really kick it off. And now, a year and a half beyond that, but I had to make changes. It wasn't just magic. I had to make changes in the people that I surrounded myself with. I had to make changes in the people that I was doing business with. I had to make real changes where I recognized these things aren't healthy. I don't have the right people around. Okay. Right, with that, I want to just kind of open up to a few thoughts and questions. And anything related, as I kind of laid out a lot of what I have my fingers in, digital marketing, photography, growing your own business. I'm currently growing. A year ago, in 6 weeks, 1 year ago, I started uploading daily to YouTube. Let me tell you about activity and being persistent. Developing a YouTube channel is the same kind of thing. So that's been fun. And my poor family has to listen to the stories. Yes?
You said doors closed, but then sometimes it's good for doors closed. I mean, even on doors closed, you forgive people, and my theory is you still love them, but maybe it's not, sometimes a person working a job 30, 40 years and they get upset, not that they let it off their face at all, they try to, but it's sometimes good because you can have a new beginning, maybe it wasn't meant for you to keep being there. I mean, it's like omens or something. I mean, I look at faces working, and sometimes maybe it's good for a door to close. I mean, you dealt with it.
Sometimes that door has to close before sometimes you're there standing in the door a little too long. And, it's wide open, but you needed to either walk through or find a new door. Yes, absolutely. I mean, believe me, when it comes to the company that I left and helped build, I was probably there 2 years longer than I should have been. I helped build it, we got to our peak, things were going. I probably should have taken that moment and move on and take that strength. I didn't. And there's eventually a point, and it's not the first job that I've had, or the first position that I've had, where I kind of wore that out. The Wayne State one was certainly one where I was like, I've done my time, we probably need fresh blood here. That was my own decision. And I'll be quite honest, I bet within a couple of years they would have come to that conclusion on their own too. So sometimes you have to recognize and make those steps. People with jobs and relationships, I've certainly found that, based on purely on my experience, absolutely.
I want to know more about digital marketing.
Sure.
That sounds, intriguing.
Well, when it comes to digital marketing or any kind of marketing, there are 4 areas that you should focus on. Awareness, traffic, conversions, and retention. So developing awareness for your brand. And there are a lot of ways you can do that. There are different types of platforms in which you can do that. Whether awareness, traffic, conversions, and retention. I'll go through them all again. And so you can use different types of advertising for branding. In other words, get your name in front of as many people as possible. And there are many different ways to go about that. Traffic, driving traffic to your website or the front door of your building. And there are many ways to go about that. You can do paid traffic, you can do search engine optimization. There are a lot of different tactics in digital marketing to drive the traffic. Conversions, that is a sale for most of us, but not always. It may be just request for more information. It could be a download. People put in their name and email. One of the biggest things when I did my 1-hour photographer site, I let it out there for free for 72 hours while it was being uploaded to Amazon. And during that time, it went totally viral. It's the only thing that really, truly went highly viral for me. Well, I have one other blog post I do every year that does pretty well. I get like 30,000 people in one day viewing that one. But people started downloading it, and I got a call from a friend who said, oh, an instructor in New York just told all his students to download your book over the weekend. This is a friend of mine here in Detroit, just heard, I mean, it had gone everywhere. People were downloading and downloading, but I was gathering emails. And that allowed me to use those emails for future marketing. And every once in a while, I discovered just giving that away for free helps me gather those emails, which can be used for marketing. So, but on the conversion part, has to do with a lot of testing. We use Google Analytics and so forth, and do A/B testing. You know, half the people go to this page, half the people go to that page. Which one gets people to buy, and things like that. And that's part of digital marketing too. So there's a lot involved with conversions and improving the headlines, improving the offer. I mean, there's a lot of testing involved when it comes to the conversions. Retention, that's of course keeping the people that you have earned over time, and that certainly, it's just about communication. Have you ever had a company that you really, or even a person, that you felt like you had good relationship with, but all of a sudden that communication kind of faded over time, and then you wonder what happened? It's that communication that keeps people engaged with you as a company or as a prospect. You know, it doesn't matter. And so email is a good way to go about that. We also like to use remarketing, retargeting. Those are little ads that follow you around. So awareness, traffic, conversions, and retention. And those are the areas you focus on when developing a brand or a new company, as far as the marketing side goes.
Do you do this? What kind of photography do you do?
I do a lot of commercial photography,
Commercial.
a lot of food. Food is a big area. If you're familiar with Aldi stores, I do a lot of work with them, but I do a lot of name brand stuff. Yeah.
You do the photography for all, they remodel houses, I think some of them was remodeled.
What?
Have all these been remodeled?
They're remodeling a lot of stores, yeah.
Okay,
They're doing a lot of that, yeah. So a lot of the photos you see hanging up are mine, or in the flyers, and I would do we do special magazine sections. So, yeah, but I photograph many companies around the world. You know, being in Detroit, a lot of manufacturing type things too. Let me take one more question because we have another speaker, and I don't want to take your time. Yes.
Okay, so you said something that caught me. You talked about, because obviously I self-published.
Yeah.
And my goal is to have a traditional
Sure.
publishing company do
Right.
it, and even to make it into a movie.
Okay.
So just recently I got this epiphany about, crafting something to go on LinkedIn to say, this is what I need referrals to this or that. And you talked about doing that, but did I hear you say that part didn't necessarily work? I need
so
clarity on what did.
Well, let me explain that to you. So I found the person, okay? I couldn't connect them because I didn't have the higher end LinkedIn account. That was my barrier. I could have paid the $90 and done it. I just said, well, let me see if I can find her on Facebook, and I could, and I connected with them that way. That's the reason behind that. One thing I would like to say on the publishing side is that, you know what? Writing a book and having it edited and going through it is all hard work, but that's not the hard work. The hard work is after it's
Right.
out.
Right.
And so here's the deal. Yes, it's nice. It's been nice to go and walk into a bookstore and see my book on the bookshelf. It is cool, but the bottom line is, you still do most of the work. They don't do as much work as they used to, the publishers. They really depend on you. So as far as that social media element, I'm waiting for my 5th book till that YouTube channel gets to a certain level. So I have a reach that I want, and I have to be persistent. That YouTube channel is about a 3-year project. to get to where I wanna go. And there'll probably be a combination code is hopefully the book. I could, at that point, be any, if I get where I wanna go. But I have good followings in other social medias, areas. You know, Twitter is a very strong one for me and so forth. So if you want to do that, when I talked, and I'll end on this, when I wanted to get into widely business area, and I talked with them, and they said that, you know, you need at least 10 to 100,000 people following you, and this was like 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm sure that number has increased for them to consider you as an author. Your social media, your reach, could be an email list, has to be strong. You have to have people that, you know, and that's part of why I'm sure they brought me on, is because I had a social media following that they felt, okay, it would help me sell books. Yes?
Does the YouTube channel create income?
Yes, I am now making $15 a month per month.
Hey, that's.
But you know, here's the thing, YouTube, they give you 55% of the revenue. My channel is growing pretty quickly now. It takes a lot of time and effort. Some stuff takes a long time to catch on, and I'm starting to roll in. One, just getting better over a year. I thought I spoke all over the world. I can go on YouTube and I'll be awesome. Hey, just ask, you know? I look at my stuff from a year ago and I go, oh my God, that's horrible. You know, I'm much better, and I've been getting you know, some higher end YouTubers saying, wow, you're doing some bang up stuff, and they're shouting me out, and it's good, you know, but it's business. It's not viral, crazy, fun stuff. It's business, it's education. It's harder. If you're gonna do it educational on YouTube like that, it's blue collar, working it until you work your way up the ladder. I'm not gonna get a big viral hit where everybody's gonna know me around the world. It ain't gonna happen. It's people who wanna know business and marketing are gonna find me eventually. And YouTube, there are 2 parts. There's search to YouTube, people searching for the things that I'm offering. Obviously, the more stuff I have out there, the easier, more people have a chance to find me. And 2, as you gain authority in YouTube, and I'm not going to go to the whole algorithm, but as you gain authority, YouTube will share your videos with more people. If you ever go on YouTube, you see all those videos to share, and that is starting to happen more and more. YouTube is getting confidence in me, and so that's starting to build. But it's still I got another good 2 years before I'm where I want to be. So, activity and persistence. It's right there. Okay, my last question. I don't want to.
Well, we can do this
Yeah,
afterwards. I was
but
just
go ahead.
thinking about in LA. Did you have someone in LA that you want to train and get going?
In LA? In terms of what?
I was just speaking for my daughter.
Oh.
Gotta take this opportunity
Yes,
to open the door for her.
Yeah. I can't say at this point in time I do. But thank you. If you don't ask, you never know. I very well can. All right. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer and talk with you afterwards. And thank you for having me here. You've been wonderful.
Thank you.